Thank you. I was going to sit in this chair, but I think I'll stand.
Okay. Well, if you change your mind.
Yes. Okay. So good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
It's a beautiful, wonderful, prosperous day in my consciousness today. And thank you, Spirit, for the words that I'm going to say, because they're your words coming through me. So, in order to talk about my life journey, my healing journey, because I believe every life journey is a healing journey, I'm going to go back to the beginning a little bit. Some of you have known that I have had challenges with depression and PTSD throughout my whole life, really. One of the earliest stories that I remember my family telling me is that when I was 18 months old, I almost died of pneumonia. I was on the danger list for 16 days. And when my mom went to thank the doctor, who was a Jewish little man, I remember him, Dr. Jerome Cohen, he said, "Don't thank me, thank the man up above," because he's the only reason she's still here. So I grew up like Myrtle Fillmore. I was able to resonate a lot with Myrtle Fillmore. I grew up, I was the sick one in the family. I got the measles, I got the chicken pox, I got the German measles, and then somehow in first grade I got German measles and chicken pox together. You know, it was just that way. Physically, you know, I had a lot of issues, health issues throughout my life. But it never really got me down. You know, there were times when I asked, why me? But as I grew, why not me? You know, and I feel and I've learned that our challenges are opportunities for us to grow and to be stronger. So when I was 6, my dad died and things changed. My mom had to go to work and support us and, you know, keep a roof over our heads and provide us food. And she did that very well. And I was left at 9 years old. I had to watch my brother and sister. And, you know, I learned how to cook and clean and do all that. And once again, you know, I knew that most people at that time had a father. I didn't. But it didn't dawn on me that, you know, my life was awful or stressful, because as a child, that was just normal. I thought everybody was like that. You know, I didn't realize. But it did create in me a lot of anxiety, fear, sadness, because my dad died in 1959. And there weren't the supports for women that there are today with young children. People didn't talk about, you know, death and things. So I never really got a chance to mourn my father's death. I just kept it inside. And I learned to stuff and hide very well. So a lot of children, you know, when they're under stress, they may act out. I did the opposite. I became the perfect child. And so I listened and did what was expected of me. I was quiet. I was very, very shy. In fact, when I went to my 15-year high school reunion, somebody said to me, "We didn't know you could talk." Because that was me. I would answer a question, but I just was so withdrawn. And I had my few friends that, you know, and it was a small high school I went to. But for the most part, you know, I was very quiet in that. And then, you know, I grew up, got through that. I wasn't diagnosed with depression until I was 33. I just thought it was normal to be a 13-year-old and think about walking in front of a bus, you know, because it was around Christmas time, I remember, and my family had gathered together and my uncle had said to me, you know, "Enjoy this. This is the greatest time of your life." And I was severely depressed, but I didn't know it. and emotionally, the pain was so great. And I thought, this is the best time. What's going to happen next? You know? So, but I didn't talk about it because, things weren't talked about, emotions. And even today, a lot of people don't talk about a lot about emotions. So anyway, I grew up, I always felt that I was here to help people, and that was instilled in me at an early age. When my dad died, the day he died, my mom said, now you have to stop crying and you have to help me. And as a 6-year-old, I took that literally. And so that's what I did. And it's made me a better person, I feel. I can sooner give up breathing than helping people. And some people don't understand that. They say, you do too much or whatever. I always think I don't do enough, but that's just me. And that's another part of my healing journey, because sometimes I could be my own worst enemy. I grew up and went to Catholic school, and there was a lot of guilt and shame associated with that at those times. And so, if people weren't, saying you didn't do it good enough, I was inside telling myself I did not do that good enough. I could do better. And thanks to Unity, those messages are out of my head. Sometimes they want to come in just for a little tad of time, but then I say, no, that's not me. I'm doing the best I can. And that's what I feel everyone is. I can have that non-judgmental stance because I feel everybody's doing the best they can with what they have at the present moment. And so anyway, so I had my different things growing up as a child. I had my tonsils out when I was 5, but still got severe sore throats throughout my, childhood and, things like that. But for the grace of God, I guess I was a strong person even then, even though I didn't feel strong, even though I felt like I was weak. And then when I went into the medical profession, I became an X-ray technologist. And then I, got married, had my children and all that. And I was running a family daycare business because my sons were young in the middle 1980s. And I was also on Saturdays doing housework for this elderly woman. And that's when I first came across Unity. I saw my first daily word at her house and I read it. And then she also had some Unity books, and I asked if I could borrow those, and I read those. And Unity just resonated so much with me, because even growing up as a Catholic, I knew babies didn't go to limbo because they weren't baptized. You look at a child's eyes, they don't have sin. I mean, there were some things that I just, always I just didn't believe in. So when I first, read about and discovered Unity, I felt I had come home. So I just wanted you to know that for a lot of my life, I lived in fear, I lived in terror, I lived in sadness. When I was young, I had a lot of anxiety. I remember my mom taking me to the doctors, and the doctor said, "Do you have bad dreams, nightmares?" And I think I was maybe about 8, 9, and I thought a nightmare would be ghosts, and things like that. I never told them that I had this awful reoccurring nightmare that my dad was driving the car and he disappeared. And then my mom was driving the car and she disappeared. And I had to drive the car because my brother and sister were in the car with me. So that was a night terror I learned later, much later, that I just didn't know, It never thought of, to me that wasn't a nightmare, but it was something that was, a part of my life at that time. And so when I was diagnosed with breast cancer in February of 2023, I was doing pretty well at that time as far as my emotional, being. It didn't seem like a whole big deal to me because of the emotional pain that I have lived with a lot of my life. And there was a voice inside of me that said, you're not going to die of this. It's going to be okay. And so I went ahead and went through the testing and different things. And, Jen and Pat and a few people here have gone, and June have gone through the journey before me. And they shared some things with me that were very helpful. And I got all the information I could, from the medical field. I had actually worked in radiation oncology for 7 years at one point in my career. And so I said, I can do this. So the diagnosis was stage 1. I had surgery, a lumpectomy, and the first time around, there was something around the margin, so I had a second surgery. I had full confidence in my surgeon. And of course, they wanted me to have everything, the chemo, the radiation, everything. So I'm like, I'll give it a shot. So I started off at St. Vincent's Hospital. And before I could start the chemo or anything, the oncologist who did the chemo there, he left. So I'm like, June, what should I do? Because the other people there said they were overworked. And June said, which is not a good thing to hear. And so anyway, so June said, you should go to Dana-Farber. And I'm like, but I'm not going to run to Boston and all this. And she said, there's a satellite in Milford. So June took me to Milford, and I met, a woman that I felt, I was comfortable with. And I decided to have the chemo. And the night before the chemo, because of course chemo is a toxin, it kills cancer cells, but it can also, do things to your body that aren't so good. I prayed with Patty, and she prayed a prayer with me that the chemo was God flowing through me, healing me, God's loving God. The words I don't remember exactly, but the gist of it was that the chemo is God's healing love flowing through me and getting rid of the, cells that don't belong there and sparing everything that, was okay. So I went in there very peaceful, and they give you steroids when they give you the chemo treatment, to help with side effects from the chemo. I don't do very well with steroids. They can either make me severely depressed, or when I had the chemotherapy, they can make me like high, like I can't even sit still. So anyway, I had the first chemo treatment, and I figured I'd go home after the treatment and rest. Well, I couldn't even sit still. I was, oh, great, I got all this energy. Wow, I feel better than before, the treatment. Well, that lasted a good week where I didn't sleep very much. I called the doctor, and they said, well, we can put you on some sleep medication and all this. And, and I don't always do well with sleep medication either. In fact, I'm very sensitive to a lot of medications, but I just wrote it out. And something inside of me said, maybe this is not the path to go down. And so June said to me, the doctors are going to really be on your case to go with the program. And I'm like, no, they won't. Well, actually, they were. So I went in for my next chemo treatment, and I told the doctor that, she said, you're all ready to go. And I said, I don't believe this is the path I'm supposed to go down. And she said, what do you mean? And I said, my body's telling me because I do have some kidney disease. I have other things going on. And today in the medical, the way the medical field is set up today, it used to be we had the general practitioner, and they knew a little bit about everything, and a lot, it seemed like, about a lot of things. And now everything is so specialized. So when the doctors work on their one specialty, they don't look at the rest of the person. And something was telling me that this may not be good for the rest of your body. And so I told her that, and she just looked at me like, man. So she started, well, you probably have a reoccurrence, and you're probably this, and you're probably that. I said, well, maybe. But I feel like I have to listen to my body and do what my body's telling me to do. And I had gone into meditation, and thought about it. And that was what my body was telling me to do. I also got a message when I was in meditation to go to a Chinese traditional medicine doctor. And so I'm thinking, yeah, and how am I going to get a good one? How do I go about that? And I was thinking on that. And like within 2 weeks, Alyssa handed me the name of a Chinese traditional medicine doctor. She handed me the information for June, but I said, you're an answer to prayer, because I was wondering how I was going to go about this. So I started going to Dr. Wong, and with him, he gives me teas. I thought teas would be like the little tea things that you get in the tea bags, but no, they're these big pieces of bark and wood and pine cones and everything. Sometimes even abalone shell pieces. And it's quite bitter, but I've decided that this is going to help me. And the theory behind it is that these teas work on your energetic body. And when you get your energetic body into balance, the physical and mental body comes into balance too. And since taking the teas, I've been on them, it's a year this month, I feel stronger physically and emotionally. I'm not on any psych medications, and I have been on them for most of my life. And it's just made such a big difference in my life. And also the unity principles and your prayers, I really feel, have helped. So then I had to face the radiation oncologist. He wanted me to have the radiation. And so he went into the spiel, well, you could get a recurrence. And when I questioned him and said exactly, there wasn't a big difference if I had the radiation or not. And and my doctors just weren't happy about, my decisions. But I told them, I said, it's not my job to make my doctors happy. It's my job to stay alive and to be as healthy as I can be. And that was what I strive for. I told them it's the quality of my life that counts to me, not the quantity. Because I don't want to live and be an invalid. I walk a couple miles most days. I'm active. I enjoy helping people. I want that life. I don't want to, run into like kidney failure and stuff. I know 2 people that have had to have kidney transplants and things. So I don't want that kind of life. And they tried to beat me down, but I stood firm. I said, my body is telling me this, and I'm listening. Because I don't know about the rest of you, but when I don't listen to that voice inside of me, I'm kind of screwed. I regret it. So anyway, I stuck with, I'm still seeing Dr. Wong. I see him once a month. And he's in Brighton. June is coming with me now, and in fact, Roselle started going to him. And I really feel that the unity principles and that really helped me. And when I first started taking the teas, I felt like in a fog, kind of. And since taking them, I really feel like I woke up. It was like I was sleeping for 100 years, and now I'm alive and awake. So I really do believe that the teas help work on, all levels of your body. And I'm really grateful for that. And my healing journey may not be other people's healing journeys. And I don't know what's down the road. But I know that I am strong enough and I have the faith that it's going to be okay no matter what happens. And recently, just to tell you a funny story, I had the port taken out. I was supposed to have, because I did get the port for the chemo, I was supposed to have it taken out on November 30th of last year. And my heart went into AFib before it, so there was a little episode there. And then, I didn't want to do anything during the holidays. I had to see the cardiologist. I got bit by a tick, so I had issues going on with that. And, a few times I was like you, I said, why me? But then I thought, okay, Spirit, thank you. Everything is happening for a reason. It's happening to get my body into balance. Even the darn tick bite that I wasn't happy about that aggravated the arthritis and all that. And I did catch myself saying, because of the tick, now my arthritis is worse and blah, 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 blah. But then I thought, no, the tick bite happened for a reason. And so, that's how I frame things more. Like I say, I still go back to some of the old ways of thinking, but I don't have to dwell there. And so on June 27th this year, I had the port taken out. So I use a cab because I don't have a car, and I couldn't drive there. I had June, was going to pick me up. And a few of my friends said, we'll drive you in, but I had to be in there for 5:30 in the morning. I said, no, I'll take the cab. Now, I've called the cab company at all hours of the day and night, 2, 3 o'clock in the morning, 1:30 in the morning when I had to take my dog Zoe to the emergency vet. They were always there. I called up at 5 o'clock, no answer. I'm like, oh, darn. That was the night it had rained that night before, quite poured, but it had pretty much stopped by morning. So I said, and it's about a mile away, so I figured I'll just walk there because I walk there all the time. So I did. I walked there. But because the cab didn't come, I didn't write down the room number I was supposed to be in. So I got there and I'm like, oh, shoot, I don't know exactly where I think it's the 5th floor, but I'm not sure. So anyway, there was one light, because at that time of the morning, there's hardly anybody around. There was one light office lit up and it said pre-admission. So I went there and I said, I'm here for, day surgery and I'm not sure where I'm supposed to go. I think it's the 5th floor. And they said, yeah, I believe it is the 5th floor. So they sent me up to the 5th floor. Well, I'm wandering around up there for like 10 minutes before it dawned on me, Joe, call the hospital to find out where you're supposed to be. I use humor a lot too. My mom gave me the gift of humor. And so I called the hospital to find out where I was supposed to be. And then something dawned on me. I think it was 3rd floor. So I went down to the 3rd floor, and because the operator was just trying to figure out where I was supposed to be. And so I went back to the room where, they had told me to go to the 5th floor, and come to find out that was where I was supposed to register. So anyway, so of course I get to the place and I'm like, now I'm like running a half an hour behind. My surgery was scheduled for 7:30. I was the first one. And I'm like, oh, darn, they better not cancel it because I was late. But anyway, they didn't cancel it. My blood pressure was a little high and they were concerned. And I said, it's just 180 something over 90 something. I said, I don't get concerned until it's 220 over 110. So, I had the surgery, everything went well. But it's just those blips that come up, and we don't have control over other people or over situations all the time, but we do have control over our reaction to them. And, using the unity principles, I've had years and years of, therapy and everything, but I find that using the unity principles, I find that peace and calmness. And more I'm able to stay in that place. So that's my journey. And if I can do it, so can't anyone else. And I just feel so blessed that I was able to do that today. Okay.